This is Phipps Cameron Hosts. It's a series looking into aspects of transformational corporate finance and the business leaders that took their businesses on change journeys. Phipps Cameron are market leaders in corporate finance recruitment, and I'm Jen. I lead the TMT desk in the corporate development division. This is the first in our series of industry experts spending a few minutes with the people that have been on change journeys with their businesses and leading some of the most ambitious businesses in the UK, indeed the world. Today, we are delighted to be joined by Ben Dorks, CEO of Ideagen. Welcome, Ben.
Good morning. Nice to meet you, Jen.
Morning. How are you today?
I'm very well, actually. It's a nice sunny day here in the technical heartland that is Nottingham.
Good, indeed. Excellent. Well, we're not too bright in London, so I think you've got all the sunshine for today for us.
That's unusual. It's normally
Nicked
cold,
it.
it's normally cold and miserable up north.
Yeah, all the snow, right? Well, congrats on the Quadex deal, the latest member of the Ideagen family.
Nice little tuck-in acquisition in the food and drink industry. So really managing the sort of quality of farm to fork. So managing the supply chain all the way through from ploughing the fields to what actually ends up on your plate. So really great addition into the Ideagen product family.
Good, and one of many sort of a blend of deal styles that we're all really enjoying watching you guys do. And in terms of an introduction, so some would say none was needed, but we know Ideagen is the one of the UK's biggest software success stories, and not to mention obviously 1.1 billion injection by HG when you were taken private in the summer. But I've also heard you personally describe it as somewhere that supports the safe hands and quiet voices that protect the world. Is that a decent summary on both sides of the coin?
Absolutely. I mean, we supply regulatory and compliance software to many different vertical industries, so life sciences, healthcare, financial services, organisations including British Airways, European Central Bank, GSK, who are all using our software to deliver a sort of variety of different outcomes, from ensuring that medicines are delivered safely to the patients, quality management within major aerospace and design builds, safety management within the aviation industry, such as British Airways, through to big industrial organisations such as Harley Davidson. While always remembering that people at the heart of the process is that manage that regulatory and compliance environment, ensuring safe outcomes for our customers in many cases.
And I know we'll speak about this a bit later when we talk about that PE match, but that kind of mission critical sort of safe pair of hands software is obviously critical to why you ended up selecting HG as your partner.
I mean, we talk about safe hands and quiet voices because often they are the sort of regulatory and compliance professionals. And I always felt that in HG, and I know we'll discuss it later, but we met a company that had many of the same sort of fundamental core values as we did, and being able to continue the journey that we've done for the last 10 years on the public markets, all the way back from our original listing in 2012, and almost to the day, a decade later, going private. It's certainly very exciting times ahead for us.
Absolutely, and we're enjoying watching the journey as well. So today, what we'd love to have is a snapshot, a sneak peek into the world of a software CEO. And I suppose a good place to start is potentially a macro view from yourself on the kind of opportunities and challenges that are absorbing your headspace at the moment.
It's an unusual macro environment, obviously, with high inflation and an ever-changing interest rate situation, a cost of living crisis. Obviously, the terrible war in Ukraine is making for a degree of uncertainty in the global economy. Although I'm still a firm believer that there is growth opportunities everywhere and all the time. And certainly from an Ideagen perspective, we're still seeing double-digit organic growth on a month by month, quarter on quarter basis. And we're still seeing sort of strong underlying trends. I think it's safe to say, it was Oscar Wilde, there's death, there's taxes, and in our world, there's regulatory and compliance. So, it's a great market to be in, probably for many of the wrong reasons, but it's certainly creating, a very positive looking future for Ideagen that really, belies some of those macro headwinds that maybe some of other organisations are feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting, and I guess we might dig into it a little bit as well. But you mentioned growth, and obviously your success story is there to be seen by anyone who cares to have a look. But what sort of found really interesting was that your public plans for Ideagen early last year hadn't been on the thoughts of a takeover, and obviously you'd raised £100 million just before Christmas 21. Balance sheet was looking good for acquisitions, and as you've mentioned, you've had a strong track record of organic growth as well. So can you comment on the potential sort of evolution of thought that your leadership team went through on the decision to consider taking a private equity partner?
So, I mean, the process of moving from the public markets to the private markets is governed under many different rules and regulations. It's not really an Ideagen decision. There was obviously some substantial changes in the value of equity stocks. We've gone through 2 fantastic years of growth, both organically, where we've made really strong organic growth, as well as over 10 acquisitions within a sort of 18-month window. And so we'd grown substantially in a relatively short period of time. As you said, the balance sheet was looking very strong post the £100 million fundraise in December 21. And as I said earlier, there's some great underlying trends in the markets in which we work. So, we're a very high level of recurring revenue, sort of high 80%, 88, 89% recurring revenue, very strong 11,500 global customers. So structurally, I think we had a lot of attraction for the private equity market, with making good cash returns, strong organic growth, and with a real pedigree and a business that was built on the capabilities to execute M&A at pace. And therefore, with a falling equity markets, then in reality, we suddenly had quite a lot of interest going into the sort of end of 21, beginning of 22, in looking at Ideagen.
Well, I mean, you've brought us neatly onto the flurry of activity that was, around that Ideagen sale period. And we can remember lots and lots of names, to name a few. There was Cinven initially, Astorg, and of course HG. When a company's got that kind of attention, and you're distilling all these details about potentially a future partner, how do you go about looking at the factors that make somebody the right PE partner?
So I think as a public company, it's always slightly different than many, because obviously our core responsibility is to maximise the return for shareholders. And I felt that was something that we absolutely delivered on with the price that we achieved. Outside of that, though, it's also really important for us as a business that we find a partner that has the same ambition as us and the same values as us. And certainly in HG, we felt that we had a partner that really believed in the vision of what we wanted to achieve and could actually accelerate that vision from what we said at our Capital Markets Day in November 21, which was we want to be a £200 million business, to something that was a lot more ambitious than that within a sort of same time frame. And I think more importantly, they had the same values as that we did. They really believed in community. They believed in having a UK headquartered software business, even though proportionally, as we go through the next 12 to 18 months, more of our revenue will be in the US, and they still believe in a UK software business. And they're very, very supportive of the wider management team. So it was never just about one or two people. It was always about, the wider idea gen management and what that wider idea gen management have achieved over the last 5 years to get us to where we've come from. So, I certainly felt that we delivered on our corporate responsibility of delivering great value for shareholders, but that we also found, a fantastic partner, probably Europe's leading technology investor, who had the same values, the same ambition, and will enable us to execute as an organisation even quicker. And that's certainly been evident in the first 6 to 7 months that we've been in the HG sort of Portco stable.
And that's really interesting that you brought up your value proposition. Was there an evolution between the sort of commercial journey and then the value journey? Did it evolve that you realized you could match your value systems as well, or was that from day one a key priority?
I think it's as a chief executive, and we've got 1,400 global colleagues. I feel, as I'm sure most CEOs do, not just a responsibility to our investors, but I also feel a responsibility to the 1,400 families that rely on Idea Gen each and every month, and especially at that time as we were going into a cost of living crisis, and gas prices were going literally through the roof, and your mortgage is suddenly £200-300 a month more, then I absolutely feel a responsibility to all of our global colleagues as well. And I wanted to make sure that within the controls that I had, that we were choosing the right home. And pretty much from the initial conversations with HG, community, which is one of our core values. So we have ambition, we have adventure, we have community. I always felt community was at the heart of what HG wanted to be. And, that's our customer community, that's our colleague community, and that's the communities in which we work. And I certainly got the impression that, they took that responsibility very seriously, just as we do.
You definitely understand that from them. We know them well as well, and it does seem like it was great to hear that from the business side, that you feel that in a really real sense. I know you've spoken about this now at length regarding Ideagen particularly, but can you comment then a little bit more widely on what you feel it's useful for a leadership team to be considering when they're choosing their PE partner?
I mean, all PE companies work on fundamentally the same philosophy. I think how they go about that varies greatly, just in terms of some key areas. So I think one, in terms of their management style. So are they standoffish? Are they, very collaborative, or are they, right from the very top, telling you this is our playbook, this is how you go and do it, and that's what we expect. And there's certainly 3 or 4 differences that different PE companies undertake. I would suggest anybody really gets to understand the financing of a PE deal, because they do vary greatly. And if you're an M&A business such as we are, how the deal is financed makes a really significant difference to your long-term aspirations and ambitions. It can be quite a limiting factor if they get it wrong. We've been very lucky with HG in how we've financed the deal and the firepower that's given us for the medium term. But I certainly know many that get it wrong. And for any other CEOs out there, I think it's really important to understand and align your aims and your ambitions with their aims and ambitions. You've got to believe it, not just write it on a PowerPoint and say the right words. I think you've fundamentally got to believe it, and more importantly, all of your senior leaders have got to believe it as well. And we talk about, it's quite easy to make sure everybody's rowing in the same direction, but as a team, we need to really constantly look at the value creation that we as executing as a business, and how do we make our boat go faster. And that requires really open and honest dialogue between our management team and our colleagues around the world. And so for me, they're really the sort of three key areas that we focused on, looking at the sort of conversations that are undertaken.
Thank you. That's really interesting, and such a complex world, and as you say, very different sort of in many ways, but core similarities. So that's brilliant. A lot to kind of think about there. And actually, you mentioned, in the past, you've mentioned a couple of times that you think that potentially an acquisition process is easier for the buyer than the seller in this situation. What do you consider the main pressure points for the SMEs during that period to be?
Yes, I think and the reason I've been an SME, so I started my own business back in 2004 when I thought I was at least the next Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, knew everything. In reality, obviously realised that I knew nothing whatsoever. But also when I exited the business, when DHM bought the business in 2012, it was my first ever sale. I'd never been through any of this before, and also I had a huge emotional attachment to this business and the individuals that worked there. We were 35, 40 people. We'd done reasonably well. We had about 2/3, 3/4 of all of the UK hospitals using our software at that point. But for me, I'd reached a very natural inflection point in how do you finance the business in the medium term? Do you use some VC money? How do we then grow, our core capital stake within that? Or do we look at a strategic, and what does that all mean? But ultimately, as an SME, you're only really likely to sell your business once. And it's usually it's a huge emotional attachment. I mean, you probably have spent more time in this business than you do with your family. And you then have these people who are coming in from the outside telling you 100 different ways that you can run this business better, which is quite difficult as well. And so for me, the advice to the SMEs is, and the buyers in this situation, is as buyers, we come in with an army of people. I've been lucky enough to obviously recruit some great candidates from Phipps, and our chief corp dev officer came from Phipps. He's got a great team. We sort of go in, there's 6, 7, 8 people that are walking into a deal, all with multiple acquisition experience on a sort of annual basis, dozens and dozens over the last sort of decade. And we're speaking to, Bob or Jill, and they've run this business for 15 years. They know every single detail, but it's their baby. And so there's you have to really focus on that sort of disconnect, that instant disconnect, and work out how we can buy this business objectively. And I think it's also incumbent on the buyers to realise that, what this business is and the attachment that it has and the feeling that it has. You also want to buy the business so that it's in great shape moving forward, and ripping it apart and alienating everybody, that doesn't achieve those outcomes. So for me, it's always a lot more difficult as a seller, and probably a one and only time seller, to listen to the cacophony of noise that you have in the background from advisors and accountants and bankers and lawyers, all telling you 100 things. Trying to simplify that into language that you understand, because frankly, they all speak a different language. M&A people, it's full of acronyms and phrases that have no meaning elsewhere in the world. So I've never met anybody else that understands what longest pole in the tent means, and yet in the M&A world, well-known phrase. Simplifying all that down into an objective, pragmatic approach that sort of gets you what you're looking for in terms of that end result. The continuation or the exit as it may be, while also ensuring that your business is, super stable and robust and is in a compelling place for the new owners to really take it forward and deliver on the opportunity that they're all looking for. So it's, the phrase of, it's easier as a buyer than a seller comes from the fact that we do it many times, they do it once. And there's generally a sort of emotional disconnect between family and numbers, which is how the two sides often think about it.
Yeah, and I know that you everything you've reflected there, I know to be true from your sort of philosophy of how you approach founders too, but as well, all of that going on, and then there's the BAU to maintain so the numbers stay good. It's intense period for sure.
It's super intense, and as an owner manager as well, so much of that responsibility falls on you. And most SMEs are really owner managed. They may have taken a bit of VC funding along the way, and there's a small sleeve that is owned by others, but in the vast cases they are the majority. They know every customer, they know every contract, and so so much of that burden of responsibility falls on you. It's also twice as difficult because you have the responsibility of selling it, but then you also have the responsibility that the people who work there, you don't just think of them as colleagues. You almost certainly know their partner, you know their children. You probably know that their dog's 8 years old and they walk in at 7 o'clock in the morning on this particular route, which is 2 miles from the office. So naturally, you feel a huge responsibility for the individuals as well. I think it's incumbent on the sellers to actually recognise and realise that, or the buyers to recognise and realise that, and ensure that it's a smooth process for both parties.
Yeah, absolutely. And for you as being part of the leadership team, where does one look to for support? Is it in your advisors, or is it somewhere sort of more personal, or is it in your leadership team?
Personally, for me, I mean, in the life of the CEO, it is always, a relatively lonely place. I mean, that's the the job of the CEO. I'm really, really lucky in that, I've got a fantastic leadership team who I get on famously well with. We go away each and every year with our partners. Last year we were walking the dogs on a pub crawl in the Cotswolds, with our other half, and that's fantastic. We build really great and collaborative relationships. So I think that sort of gives me a very natural support network internally in the business, and externally, I'm super well supported by my family. My wife and my brother, who I actually started my original business with all the way back in 2004, and he's still there, although his golf handicap is now a lot lower than mine since he's retired. So I've got I'm very lucky in that I've got a really good personal and professional network to support me. Although in reality, as a CEO, it is still you that makes the decision, and that can sometimes be a lonely place to be. It's I think it's something that you grow into, and you recognise that you know very little. You try and be a learn-it-all, and make the decisions, with a conscience that means you're doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
And you've spoken a lot about your team, your employees. You clearly have a heart for the wider business, the whole business, everybody that makes it up. And I was just thinking about the changes that are present for everyone else when a PE partnership's made. What do you think it means to the people who are far removed from leadership, and what they think and how they feel when a PE partnership's made?
In reality, if you get it right, then it should have very little impact on the wider business. If you're leading with impact, not just from the chief exec, because you lead with impact in actually quite a small circle. If your leaders across the business are leading with impact and doing and exhibiting the right behaviours, then in reality it's a pretty simple message. We moved from an organisation with 100 different investors to and speaking to 100 different people, which is what I used to do as the chief exec and board member, to an organisation where I have one investor who has 100 investors. So instead of speaking to 100 people, I'm speaking to one person, but ultimately delivering the same outcomes, which is great stakeholder return, for those that have backed to the organisation financially over the years. And so if you can exhibit, if you can deliver and articulate that message internally, then it makes very little difference to the individuals. What you're able to do, a little bit with a little bit more elegantly in a private equity world is deliver, through some of the management incentives, deliver slightly better management incentives to the many than you perhaps can where you're limited on the public market by the remuneration regulations, which are fairly restrictive, certainly on the UK markets. But you then have challenges that you can't offer a share scheme to all in the same way that you can on the public market. So you just have to balance the messaging up. You have to think quite creatively about ways that you can make it the reward incentives inclusive for everybody. Hint, don't take 80% chief execs of your sweet equity pot, which is not uncommon. Share it. It's a community. We're a community-based business. We genuinely believe in having as many people as part of that pot as possible, and certainly by the time that we go through ours, hopefully nearly 50% of our business will be included in some way or the other through the various programs, incentives, and bonuses that we have in place. And I think if you do that and you articulate these programs really well, then actually what you end up with is something where everybody feels part of the same outcome, and we're all working together. And I think more importantly, if you can get large percentages of your business engaged and understanding their contribution to the whole, then that is what enables our business to grow and develop faster, but also creating a sustainable business and what we call a forever business. This isn't about just delivering a return. It's about delivering a return and creating a forever business that is a legacy for each and every person that works in.
Yeah, no, love that. And I presume as well that, because it isn't just about the financial return, that the career growth and people feeling that they're being invested in that respect as well goes alongside everything very naturally that you've mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are an organisation that really values our people. We want to create great growth opportunities for all of the individuals here. We have a fantastic working environment in our core locations, and also very supportive of all of our home workers as well as those that are hybrid workers. And I think the phrase that we use is we want them to recognise when they're telling their grandkids in 30 years' time that Ideagen was the best place that they ever worked, and whether that's because we gave them really great growth opportunities where there is truly no glass ceilings and where we truly encourage diversity and inclusion amongst the whole company, whether that was just we were a really safe harbour in a really difficult and challenging personal time within their life, and they felt safe, and it was a very psychological safe space for them, or whether that's because they met their husband or wife here. It doesn't matter what those reasons are, or their best friends are here because they all came on the graduate scheme together. They spent 5, 6, 7 years here together, and they'll never forget that first part of their career journey. For us, it's just about creating an environment that supports trying to be a great place to work each and every time across all the different expectations that our colleagues have in the different geographies of the world. And we have UK, Malaysia, where we have 250 people, India, Australia, where we have 100 people, or the 250 people we have in North America.
Yeah, that's I really appreciate that perspective and that point of view on a business is it's music to a recruiter's ears, to value your talent. It's your best commodity, and give them a home as well as the excellent companies that you partner with. So just to round up, because obviously your passion for people is tangible, I thought that it would be nice to go away from the commercial point of view and talk about the things that you are doing in the Nottingham community, which I know are very close to your heart. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about the Forest Community Trust and Think Big.
Yeah, so we do community, as I said, is one of our core values. It feels like a word I've used a lot actually during this, and we have something called the Think Big program, which is going out into schools and promoting what we term unimagined futures for people between the ages of 14, 15 and 16, especially those that are coming from socially deprived or difficult backgrounds, and really giving them opening their eyes to the opportunities in technology, and getting them to recognize that tech is not just about one person sitting there coding in a cupboard and that's it. There's hundreds of different careers that tech is actually integrated into each and every part of their lives, from when they watch Netflix to when they order something online to when they fly on a plane, whatever it may be, that tech is a huge part of their lives and creates lots of careers. We have a big apprentice scheme, so we're taking 10 apprentices from that this year, and we're rolling that out into other areas as well. So that's not just in Nottingham, where this year we will speak to over 17,000 children. This year we'll go through the Think Big program. We will have over 200 go through our Think Big Masterclass, which is where we put mentors aligned into 2 or 3 children to enable them to be supported through that final year of school, helping with their life skills, helping write CVs, supporting them in ways that they may not be able to get in their home life today. And replicating this program in Australia and in North America, and shortly also rolling out in KL. So really important for us to talk the talk in supporting the communities in which our core offices are based. And this year, for example, as well, we've added to that by enabling all of our global employees to take 5 days off a year for volunteering.
Right.
So not just support the communities in which our offices are based, but also to support the communities, and activities and passions that mean a lot to them in their own backyard as well. And that's, I think, typifies who we want to be as a company, which is delivering great growth, creating the world's leader in regulatory and compliance software, but also doing it in the right way for the right reasons.
Commendable, and butterflying those 2 aspects together will surely make the business super inspiring for every member. And just seeing that impact on the community is going to be really exciting over the years, as you say, the legacy that you want to leave. Really great to hear your thoughts today. Exciting times for Ideagen, a decent table position for Forest. You're just you're just doing all right, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I don't ever manage to get past an interview without mentioning the Forest word. Yes, so I'm an ardent Forest fan, lifelong Forest. I think most people actually, even in the city now, recognise that's the case, because you see Ideagen on Match of the Day each Saturday night, which is probably my proudest corporate moment. Unicorn status is great, but sponsoring your home football team, where my first match was when I was 5 years old, never gets tiring. And the fact that we're not in the bottom 3 is a major miracle, but one that I am relishing and enjoying each Saturday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Friday nights, because Premiership seems to play it all over the place. But I'm enjoying my first year experience for many a year.
Yeah, good. Well, look, congrats on that and on everything else, and thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you very much, Jen. Absolute pleasure, and as I said, been great working with you over the last year.
Thank you. Look forward to the future. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.